Hey everybody, it's me Laura, and today we're going to be doing my Clover design number 1 with polymer clay and eggshell, and this one should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be showing you how I make my miniature clover type by hand, but then I'm also going to be taking these clovers and we're going to be putting them into an eggshell design. So right here I'm starting out with a bunch of tiny little balls, and really what you need here is you need 6 tiny balls, all of about the same size, okay? Once you have those, you're going to take 2 of the balls and you're going to twist them either on the surface of your tile there, or in your hands. You're going to twist them into little teardrops. Once you have that done, you're going to take both of those teardrops, you'll place them together, and then you pull the bottom and it'll create a tiny heart. Now, I know you're saying, okay, it's a pulled heart. Yeah, it is. However, these pulled hearts, and we're going to make 3 of them, will come together to form our clover. But before we put our clover together, we're going to bring in our burnisher. And you can use a knitting needle also, but right here you can see me just kind of scoring down on these hearts. And I'm just making a nice little indent. I'm leaving a little bit of that bulbous end at the top on all 3 of these. Once I have them, I'm going to take one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and place them all together, and then kind of twist at the bottom to give myself a nice little stem, if you will. And this will form up my first clover type. So my second clover type is actually doing those same balls again. So I'm going to be making 6 separate small little balls. We're going to go ahead and create those little hearts once more. And this time we're just going to place the hearts together. So we're not going to actually use the burnisher here. We're just going to go ahead and put them together and create kind of a clover-like look. This to me was actually my most non-favorite clover to make. I mean, it was cute and everything, but I thought, nah, I like the other version better where I use my burnisher. So my next type of clover is when I bring my burnisher back in, and yes, we've made those same hearts once more. And then of course, I'm flattening that down on the surface of my tile. Once I have these kind of like, burnished down, if you will, in the center, I'm going to go ahead and take all 3 again, like I did the first one. We're going to place them together, and then I'm going to bring in another color. Now this is some peach clay, and it's really a nice pale peach. You could go with actually a little bit more of an orange in it if you want, but I decided I wanted to go with peach, and part of it was because, well, it's kind of the color of the year. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and use our color of the year a little bit. And look how I put that right in the center of my little clover here. I like this one. I think it looks really great. And notice here too, I'm adding in some green beneath so I could get more of a stem too. So if you have like a tiny stem coming off of this and you want a little more, add in a little bit more green. But right here, I'm going to bring in my knitting needle. I'm going to make that little indent, and this kind of finishes off my next type of clover. The one that comes after this now, it's going to get interesting because I thought I need to go to a little bit more clay. These balls are a little bigger now. You could kind of tell that, right? And part of it is because this is going to be one clover, but we're going to be forming another one as well. It's all going to work in concert together. So right here, I've got the 3 hearts. Once more, going to go ahead and do that burnish, and these are fairly large. Like I said, I want to say the balls I started with were probably about close to 1/4 of an inch in diameter. And then right here, again, coming down with that burnisher, I'll bring these up, all right? And then I'm going to bring in that peach clay once more. Now with this peach clay, I'm going to make a fairly good sized ball. I want to say this is at least 1/4 of an inch, okay? And I'm turning it into a teardrop, and then I'm going to bring in my small scissors. And with my small scissors, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this teardrop in half, at least part way down. And then I'm going to take one of the halves and cut that in half. This gives me 3 nodules to work with. I'll then bring my burnisher in and I'll start flattening each little area, which it turns into a little petal. And then I'm going to make that into a little peach clover. Now this clover will then become the insert or the center to my newest clover design. In creating my clover, I forgot one of my designs, and it really is such a simple one. All it is you're taking 3 balls, you're turning them into teardrops. You'll then bring in your burnisher and you'll just press down flat on each one. You'll bring them together and form your clover. Okay, so here's the different clover types I did by hand, and I wanted to give you guys a good shot of all of them together. This way then you'd be like, okay, I like that one better, I like this one. You can pick and choose which one you want to use then. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on and use a few of these clovers to create our newest eggshell design with polymer clay. Okay, so right away here, I'm bringing in some white clay, and this was rolled out on a number 4 setting. And I bought some of these oval cutters at my Hobby Lobby, and they had a whole set of them, and it was fairly cheap. So I thought, well, what the heck, why not? Plus, it gave me a different kind of oval type to work with, right? Anyways, I'm taking that little white oval piece and I'm flattening that down on my eggshell, and I'm trying to position this so it looks right, okay? If you need to, go ahead and get a pencil and draw an oval onto the eggshell to give yourself a reference point. Maybe that will help some. But anyways, moving on. I've got this oval down now on my eggshell. I'm going to cut a slice of my black and white stack, and then I'm going to create a checker with that. And I decided to pick the black and white because I didn't want it to compete with the clover I'll also be adding into the design. So here I'm going to start cutting my checker with my blade, and this is fairly narrow, but not too bad. I want to say it's probably 1/8 of an inch wide when it comes to that checker. And then I'm going to build up this line, and then I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to place this around my oval on my eggshell. And if you're wondering, no, I have not glued this down. Not the oval, not the checker. And you're like, okay, well, isn't that going to be? No, it's not a problem. The nice thing about putting that oval down ahead of time was that when I patted it down, the clay will kind of adhere to the eggshell a little bit, and it'll stay in place, all right? This way then I could go ahead and add in things like that checker, all right? I'll even come back in later after I bake this, and I'll add in a little bit of super glue here and there, and it'll adhere just fine. Now, as you can tell here, I have some flattened green clay here, which was rolled out on a number 6 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And I've cut some little lines into that green clay to create these little strips. And really what they are is they're going to be stems that will sort of hold a little bit of clover on them, if you will. And I like to curl up some of these little snakes, if you will, or these little stems, and turn them into like little curled areas, which are really fun to design on, especially on this little white panel I got going on my eggshell. Now, after I get some of this going, I'm going to start placing also some of my clovers down once I have a couple of these little lines, these little stems down onto the front panel here. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as I put this design together on the front side of this eggshell. Okay, so at this point, I've baked my eggshell for about 5 to 7 minutes, okay? And it was just to get that front part fired so I wouldn't have to worry about handling unbaked clay and then messing up the design on the front. Because what we're going to work on now is the band that goes around the vertical axis of this egg. So I want to say, and this was a template I had, it was a 1/2 of an inch in, I want to say wide. And this was just a strip I made. I got some of that, I want to say that plastic template making stuff that you find in the in the sewing section of your craft store. That's the only way I could think of it, right? But anyways, I went ahead and made a template then of just a 1/2 inch kind of thing, right? This strip. And that way then it would be easy to cut out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm wrapping this around, like I said, the vertical axis of the egg. And then I'm going to bring in my needle tool and I'm just going to kind of push it into one end of that into the egg and then bring my Exacto knife in and cut off the excess. This way then I have a nice clean cut and it's also conforming to the eggshell. You're still going to have to pat down the clay just a little bit so that that peach clay will conform to the shell itself, but that's not a problem. I'll do the same thing again on the other side, giving me a nice flush strip right over the top of this shell. Now, once I have this, you'll kind of notice I'm a little off, just a little bit, right? Well, you know what? Leave the front part because it's already been baked. I mean, mind you, it's not glued down, but just use that band and try and figure out, okay, does it look even on all sides? And then reconnect that band into the base. It works just fine. This is the nice thing about the clay. You can make it work so that the eye was like, oh yeah, they go this way instead. Instead of like, okay, oh no, it's not working. No, don't worry. Just use that fresh clay with all its nice little elasticity, if you will, to kind of work for you. Okay, so we're bringing in our black and white stack, and again, I'm cutting another piece, and we're going to go ahead and create more of that checker, and it's going to go, or I should say, it will go on both sides of that peach piece that we just laid down. So you're going to have a nice line of checker on both sides of that peach, and really, this gives the nice kind of added little detail that makes, I think, part of this design come alive. I'm sorry, I can't get away from my black and white. It works so well. Now you might notice here I'm using my straight blade here, my 6-inch tissue blade, to kind of adhere that black and white into the that peach color. And really this is where I really like the idea. I don't have to use glue all the time. I did use a small bit at the very top there to kind of just lay down that black, just to get it started, that black and white checker, okay? Once I get it started though, it just lays down really nice next to the other piece of clay. And again, I am not gluing this really in. I'm just kind of letting it form together. And then once I do, I'll go ahead and bake it all and I'll come back in later after I baked it to super glue it in finally, okay? And yes, I'm using super glue. I am not gonna use my, I wanna say my liquid Sculpey. And a lot of this is because the liquid Sculpey is great clay to clay. It really is. I absolutely, hands down, I've become an advocate, right? But when it comes to clay on other surfaces, and in this case on eggshell, I really have to lean into my super glue. All right, so once again, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as I create more of these clovers and put them together and put them on the top of this eggshell design. All right, so now that I've got most of this design down on the top of that eggshell, we'll go ahead and bake this piece for about another 5 to 7 minutes. Now for the fun part. And yes, I'm going to be bringing in some green rhinestone chain. I am so excited about this. Yay! Okay, maybe I'm a nut, right? And right here, I don't know, I like laying the rhinestone chain right around my clay areas. It's so easy to do, but it's so much fun too. I don't know, maybe I'm a weirdo in this regard, but hey, it is what it is, right? So anyways, I have this light green kind of rhinestone chain, and I'm placing this right around my oval on the front side. Once I have this all glued down, and I do a little bit at a time, okay? I glue a little bit of that chain in at a time. And then the nice thing about this chain is you can just kind of twist it right off at the very bottom. And if it doesn't quite conform, I kind of push the chain back in on itself a little bit, and usually it'll go right back in. If not, you have to bring in your wire cutter and take off maybe a rhinestone or so just to make it work. Now, once I got that first piece of rhinestone chain down, I was like going, oh, okay, I need to do more. So I went a little nuts and I started adding it around the peach area as well of the egg. And then I decided, okay, I want to go ahead and fill in some of those little, I want to say, indented areas in my clover where I thought, let's go ahead and put in some single white clear rhinestones, and it was just a nice little added detail I could do. I also then started looking at this and I thought, wait a minute, the single, I want to say little clover leaves or whatever, the petals, whatever you want to call them. I also thought, you know, on that larger area, I could put in a larger rhinestone next to the smaller one I've got going. And so I started doing that as well. Then once I had this done, I decided, okay, the base on this, of course, because I had baked it a number of different times, and mind you, it was the Sculpey Original White, so sometimes it's just colors, okay? I did not like the coloring on this. So I came in with my color shift paint. I painted the back panel of the eggshell and the base in that color shift, and it just made it come together. All right, so the more I got more of this green flash color shift paint down onto the eggshell, I decided I needed to bring that also into the front side. The thing is, whenever you put some kind of component down onto your egg, you need to tie it all in together. So don't just paint one half like, with my color shift and then just leave the rest of it without anything that, goes with it. You have to bring in that paint also on the front side. And so what I did was I started highlighting a few of the clovers with that paint, and it really did tie it in. I had to also do that on the middle band as well. All right, so this is the end result of creating my first Clover design in polymer clay and eggshell. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I'm sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.